Many thanks for staying with us. Unstable power supply continues to place an unbearable financial burden on the shoulders of entrepreneurs and citizens of the country who constantly run their businesses and homes with generating sets. Analysts say the situation has remained the same despite the huge investment by successive governments since the unbundling of the nation's power sector about 3 years ago. In this special report, we take a look at how unstable power supply is affecting small businesses in the nation's capital, Abuja.
The unbundling of the Nigeria's power sector in 2013 was described by some as a bold step by the government to stabilize electricity supply. Almost 4 years down the line, Nigerians are yet to experience stability in electricity supply. Citizens continue to rely on personal electricity generating sets to power their homes and small businesses. In Abuja, small business owners groan for the lack of stable electricity supply. Some say the situation affects their potentials for growth.
We are running a chain, and all our profits is consumed by the chain, which is very bad.
So with that light, we can do nothing. And most of the customers, they will not hear, my gen is, they're working on it, so they don't hear that.
The federal government has spent several billions of naira between 2014 and 2017 to boost electricity supply. Yet, generation and distribution continue to fluctuate between 2,000 and 5,000 megawatts.
We cannot be investing billions and billions of naira on certain things that are not working. There should be, like you also noted, mixed grill. If the local government only needs 1 or 2 megawatts to power their schools and their secretariat and other little infrastructure they have in the area.
Other experts are of the opinion that the problem in the sector is administrative.
Most of them are run by the managing directors of those companies because it's a private entity, are not run by engineers. The Transmission Company of Nigeria, 99% of the activities of TCN is engineering. If you take Niger Delta Power Holding Company, it's a purely engineering project company. Today, these companies are being run by non-engineers.
Electricity generation nationally has hit its high and low this year. While the government is blaming vandals in the Niger Delta for the erratic supply of electricity, analysts argue that investment in energy mix, as well as the appointment of administrators with better understanding of the power sector, will go a long way to address the situation.
And the Central Bank of Nigeria appears to be wielding the big stick. Millicent Walker has more details on Business News.
Thanks, Melinda. Welcome to Business News. Latest data released today by the National Bureau of Statistics shows that Nigeria's trade balance turned positive in the fourth quarter of 2016, the first positive reading since the same quarter a year ago. According to the NBS, although Nigeria's fourth quarter imports rose 46.4% to 2.31 trillion naira in 2015, the country's exports also jumped by 53.5% in value terms to 2.98 trillion naira in the same period under review. Meanwhile, the balance of trade for the fourth quarter was 671 billion naira, while the net trade balance stood at 290 billion naira in 2016. And Nigeria's central bank says it will direct commercial banks to sell business and personal travel allowances to retail customers within 24 hours of filing a demand request. Well, this follows complaints received by the financial regulator that some banks are delaying the sale of FX to retail customers as and when due, in contrast to the new forex policy issued by the CBN nearly 2 weeks ago. The CBN also says that banks will be compelled to open forex transaction compartments across the country with immediate effect to enhance the ease of forex transactions to many Nigerians as soon as possible. The source tells Channels Television that all commercial banks will be asked to have electronic FX rate display system in all their branches. And to the Treasury bills market, where the Central Bank of Nigeria raised 310.14 billion naira at an auction on Wednesday at lower yields. The bank sold 222 billion naira of one-year Treasury bills at a yield of 18.49%. 62 billion naira of the 6-month bill was sold at 17.20%, while 26.14 billion naira of the 3-month paper was sold at 13.65%. Subscriptions stood at 312.44 billion naira. However, the secondary market closed on a bullish note, with average yield contracting by 19 basis points to 16.96%. Bills at the short end of the curve attracted interest, while the mid and long segments came under pressure. Overnight lending rate ended the week at 16% from about 13% last week. The CBN sold dollars twice this week to clear a backlog of demand for companies and private individuals to ease pressure on the naira. Traders say the regular forex auctions and the Treasury bill sales drain liquidity. In the meantime, analysts expect the overnight lending rate at the interbank market to move northward as the Central Bank of Nigeria may increase the frequency of its dollar sale. Market watchers also believe the CBN will continue its OMO mop-ups on its bid to keep liquidity tight to constrain dollar demands. And in the meantime, the bond market ended the week on a bullish note, with average yield falling by 56 basis points to close at 16.31%. All the traded securities recorded yield contraction except the May 2018 bond. The demand was most notable at the short and the intermediate segment. Meanwhile, following the federal government's announcements to launch its first ever savings bonds into the domestic bond market next month, the minimum subscription to FGN bonds and Nigerian Treasury bills under the new market structure is 50 million naira. And the first trading week in March ends with a 0.94% decline in the market capitalization and the all-share index after the bears held on to the better part of the 5 trading sessions. The financial services sector led the activity chart with 1.22 billion shares traded, while the consumer goods and the conglomerate sector followed as top contenders. Nestle Nigeria led 23 other equities with a 10.25% price increase. United Capital also led 23 other losers as it lost 22.34%, while 129 equities remain unchanged in their prices. A total turnover of 1.38 billion shares worth over 13.72 billion naira were in 15,422 transactions. And finally, Nigeria's largest indigenous industrial concern, Dangote Cement, has outlined the steps being taken to resolve the crunching impact of poor electricity on the company's balance sheet. While speaking with Channels Television in Lagos on Friday, the group's chief executive officer says the company has restructured its factories, sourcing locally.
Energy and currency are the big ones, and energy, the lack of gas. Our plants are built to run on gas, and the severe lack of gas has hurt us a lot because we had to replace it with LPFO, which is about 3 times as expensive. Yeah, so that was the big problem, especially in Q3. We've done a lot of work to see that we are prepared for the future. We have equipped all our plants in the meantime, and we are ready with the whole program for all the plants in Nigeria. We can run them on coal. So first of all, the plants have to be technically equipped to run on coal. So that's the first. The second one.
That's an investment.
That's an investment.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, and a lot of time goes into equipping your plants. Now they can run on 3 types of fuel, either LPFO, coal or gas. So at all times we have 3 options.
And that's Business News Tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. It's back to you, Melinda.
Many thanks, Millicent. The recent outbreak of xenophobic attacks in South Africa is one out of the many over the last few years, causing people to think that the hatred, especially against Nigerians, goes beyond economic reasons. Although South African authorities have denied the link, our next report looks at the root cause of the crisis and how to deal with this problem.
While many look to developed countries such as the United States, Canada, Russia and the UK for migration in the West, here in Africa, it's South Africa. Since the end of apartheid, there has been an influx of immigrants into South Africa, many hoping to start a new life. That dream of a new life has been interrupted time and again by these xenophobic attacks. And this is a scenario that plays out. Aggrieved youth hiding under the cover that immigrants have taken their jobs and are participating in crime, destroy businesses and livelihood. But the main opposition in South Africa, the Democratic Alliance, says the root cause of the recent rise in xenophobic violence is the ANC government's failure to create jobs and to equip the people with necessary quality education and skills to gain employment. Director at the Rights, Education, Empowerment and Development Center for Social Change, Vuka Igoroje, also blames the spate of attacks on government's failure to fulfill its duties towards the people.
The issue of wealth distribution, it's not very proper in South Africa. The minority whites, I don't know if they are white or brown, I don't know how to use it, forgive me, they still control well over 80% of the economy. Okay? And that leaves the blacks with few options and few choices.
The government, however, refuses to acknowledge that the feelings of xenophobia exist.
That is a debatable point, whether South Africans are xenophobic. I don't think you would have the numbers that you have of foreigners. And I don't think you would sit for years and years without any press out if South Africans were xenophobic. In the majority of cases, only when there are such incidents where people take the law into their own hands, and generally people who come from outside because they don't have places to stay, etc., and also the kind of employment they have.
Nigerians who have borne the brunt of recent attacks began immigrating to South Africa following the end of apartheid in 1994, when South African businesses sought for professionals to immigrate. As of 2011, there were at least 24,000 Nigerians living in South Africa. But studies show the ill will began shortly after that, due to a rise in organized crime in Nigeria, with fears they had begun to be exported to the new country. Despite recurrence of attacks over time, it appears Nigeria is yet to decide on firm diplomatic response to express displeasure.
Like you said, in the past, proper investigation have been done. And over the years, once there is this attack and government does proper investigation, people are prosecuted, maybe some of these external forces like these politicians are prosecuted, it will create the same way of deterrence. And deterrence is the only way.
Illegal immigration is clearly a problem to South Africans, but there are legal means of dealing with the problem. Rather than angry youth taking the laws into their own hands, Nigerians in South Africa call for more decisive action and pray these attacks will surely be the last in a country they've come to call home.
The Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, says the National Assembly is committed to repositioning the transport sector to improve the nation's economy. He has inaugurated a technical committee on the transport sector reforms and explained that the Senate wants to encourage private sector investment, so the bills are crucial to achieving that. Nigeria's transport infrastructure is essential to unlocking the nation's potential and critical to economic development. The sector is made up of aviation, ports, railway and road transport. But over the years, it has suffered from various challenges.
Adjourn to Wednesday 22nd, say aye.
In its bid to reposition the sector, the Senate is presently working on 6 legislations to improve it and attract private investment. These include the Railway Bill, Ports and Harbour Bill, the National Transport Commission Bill, the National Inland Waterways Bill, the Federal Roads Fund Bill, and the Federal Roads Authority Bill. The Senate set up a committee of experts to provide technical knowledge that will enrich the work of the various Senate committees on the bill.
These bills, if passed in our view, will help modernize and expand our transport sector infrastructure. The Senate and the Executive and National Assembly are working together to create the enabling environment to be able to do this?
Our task is simple, sir, to make sure that the bills are aligned, that they create bureaucracies or institutions that are aligned, and therefore there will be no unintended consequence. And when they operationalize, they will be able to lead to efficient investment and effective programs.
The 12-member committee have a week to make recommendations to the upper chamber, who has expressed its determination to pass these bills.
These are bills that are already, out of the Senate. But what we are trying to do is to see how we can merge them together in such a manner that there won't be any overlap when eventually they become law.
The Senate believes that the reform bills, when passed, will improve the business environment by entrenching efficiency, accountability, independence, and market orientation across the sector.
But motivated by the automobile.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Britain's Andy Murray ends title drought at the Dubai Open, beating Fernando Verdasco to win the tournament. That's on Sports News. Join us again.